is, remember those financial experts I told you that shop 11 to 12 lenders so we can offer the best value possible? Okay, well, the first thing we do is we turn over your financial information to them. Let them shop every lender in the area. And they find out the maximum amount the lenders will allow you to put in the home at the best value possible. Now, once we have that number, okay, we can subtract the price of the house, and that tells us how much we can put in the land so we can find you the nicest 2 acres possible. And that's really what you're after, isn't it? Great. Let's fill in the credit app. See, the beauty to that story is the only way my financial experts can shop those 11 lenders is if he gives me a credit app. So I first go for the credit app. Then I go, the money you said you were going to put down, was that going to be cash today or was that going to be a check? Well, what do you want with the money? You know, why don't you get me the land first, and you know, and then I'll give you that. You know, and say, look, I could turn this in without a deposit, but I am not going to risk your credit standing that way. This is the same one that I use. I call it the two-pile theory story, right? This is the same one I use for the guy that says, well, get me approved and then I'll give you the deposit. See, I could do that, but I'm not going to risk your credit that way by letting them shop without a deposit. I won't do it. Why not? Well, these girls at the bank are just like everybody else today. They're overworked and they're understaffed. They come to work every morning and the managers put 2 piles of agreements on their desk, okay, to check out for the day. Okay, they got a real big pile here with little or no down payment. They got another little pile over here with a substantially good faith deposit. Where do you think they're going to put their time, Josh? I'll tell you where they put it. They put it in a little pile. You know what they do with this big pile? See, because as soon as they get through, they can go home. So what do? On the big one without any deposits, the first thing they find in your credit report that allows them to turn you down so they can go home quicker, they do it. Like you were late once 6 months ago, boom, turned down. Now the problem with that, once you get a turn down, it shows on your bureau report that you were turned down, and you're going to have a devil of a time getting anything financed for the next 2 to 3 years. Now I'm not going to do that. Any questions anybody thought of at the break? Anything at all, a clarification? And I really want to encourage that. Please, there are no dumb questions. If you know, I'm going over this very quickly. I'm so doggone used to it and so comfortable with it. Like I said, sometimes I don't explain it properly, so don't be afraid to back me up. Yes? Louder.
What happens if you don't meet a month at their car, like we were talking about, and they leave their spouse or children or whatever in the car, and they won't bring them in, even if you get them back from their office, they won't sit down. What do you do?
I don't go back to the office in that case. I say, let's go out and get your family, and I go back out to the car and start at the car. I drag the guy back out. I don't even try and bring him into the office by himself.
What happens if in the lobby or in that parking lot that you're talking a little bit about where we just want to visit some nice.
I give them the answers on this, and if they won't do that, I said, well, just a second, let me get the keys and turn it over to a senior salesperson, let them say it, try it. And if that doesn't work, I thank them for stopping by and tell them I'm sorry they're not going to be able to see the nicest homes in the state.
We tried with that, is that when a guy comes into the office and you can see they left somebody outside, you just real quickly just say, is this your wife with you? And they say yes, and say, excuse me, and you step out of the door and just kind of wave to them, and 90% of the time they think that he sent you to get them, get out of the car and in the car.
Okay, good point. Good point. Does everybody hear that? You just identify who's out in the car. Well, that's my wife, my children. Oh, just a second. Lean out of the door and, like David says, most of the time they'll think the husband told him to do that, and they'll come in. The name of the game is control, isn't it? I'm sorry, but I took a great deal of time and effort to learn what I know about this business. And doggone it, I'll be darned if I'm going to let some guy come in and just walk all over me and waste the one thing in my life that's irrecoverable, time. See? We are not all created equal, except one place. We are each given exactly the same amount of seconds every day to work with. And if you had $20 billion, you couldn't buy a half a second more than everybody else has in this room. When I figured that out, I quit wasting them. See? I know what to do with my time. I'd rather, turn them over to somebody else, and if the guy doesn't want to talk to you and doesn't want to leave the program, let him walk. I want to tell you something about that guy. Years of experience. Even if the guy refuses after 2 attempts and you've done everything the way I'm showing you here, and this guy won't even talk to you, you don't want to sell him anyway. Because for the next 2 years, you wish the devil you hadn't. That guy will drive you nuts with unreasonable service calls and everything else on it. Yeah.
Office a couple of days ago. In fact, it was Monday. And they came in and they drove, quite a ways to get down there. I talked to them on the phone and they came in. When they got there, everything was going okay, and I go just, by the book, what it says, find out what their wants and needs are. I'm going down through there and I'm asking him these interview questions, and I'm asking him, how many bedrooms do you need? Do you have any kind of hobbies? Maybe do you do crafts or whatever? And he said, really? He said, I don't think that's any of your business. He said, that is very personal. And I thought, okay. So, if this really happened to me, and he was just real irate, he got
I wonder what kind of hobbies he had.
He got real irate, and this probably won't happen again in a long time, but it did happen, and I thought, how can you really, and I guess it's kind of like one of these people you're talking about, well, if they're going to be that way, you're probably glad you don't want to deal with them later anyway. But he told me in the middle of the interview, he said, you know what? He said, all these questions you're asking me have absolutely nothing to do with me buying a house. And I said, sir, but it really does, because in order for me to help you, find out what you need and what you want, I ask you these questions. That way it helps me help you better. And he said, no, it's very irrelevant. It has nothing to do with me buying a home. He just kept on. So I finally went to the GM and I talked to her. She's like, get these people out of this office just as quick as you can, and I don't even want to do it if they don't have time.
Well, you know what you might have done with him? Why didn't you take him out to a junker trade-in? And say, what do you think of this? And he goes, well, I wouldn't buy this. They say, well, see, that's what I was trying to tell you. I'm trying to figure out what you would buy. You see, you could have used that would be, this has nothing to do with it. Well, if you get a no on some of this stuff, like do you have hobbies, as an example, that's one where you usually lose the guy, okay? Because they can't relate to it. If you get a no on that particular question, you always want to give the guy an example of where it might have made sense. Like I said, do you have any hobbies or any interests I should be aware of that require space? And they say no. I might try, here's 2 you could use that actually happened to me. Let me explain why I asked that, Melinda. I had a woman come in here the other day that had been playing piano since she's a little girl, and she had one of those upright pianos, the one you put against the wall. And she explained to me that I had to find her an inside wall, because if you take those kind of piano and put them on an outside wall, every time you get a season change, they go out of tune on you. I didn't know that. Did you know that? No. Is there anything like that with you that I should be aware of? See, if you give them a story like that, then they can relate to it, can't they? See, then they can sort of say to themselves, oh, okay, it doesn't fit me, but I could see how it might have. Or I get the guy that questions that. I always use the gun case on. I said, let me explain what I mean. I had a fellow come in there the other day, told me he collected guns. When I asked him how many and what kind, he told me he had about 26 rifles, and he had a big gun case that was 7 foot 8 inches high. Now, our ceilings are 7 foot 6, okay, for energy efficient. So what I had to do was order a home for him for a vaulted ceiling. Now, I can get vaulted ceilings really easy in the living room, but he wanted to keep the gun case in the master bedroom so it was away from his children, and that posed a real problem, limited the amount of floor plans I had available. So that's why I'm asking. So you got to give if you get a no on that particular question, that's a real easy place to lose somebody, because they figure, now what does this have to do with anything?
Maybe they might have a computer, they may have, special interests such as, any kind of crafts or whatever. And, apparently she did crafts and things because she just kind of talking, he was kind of stopping everything.
See, did you do that 4-part intro, Honest Indian up front?
Pardon me?
Did you do the 4-part intro on that?
Yes, sir, I did.
You did.
I sure did.
For $20, you can say it just the way it's in the
sure
book. Okay? All right. Okay. Because that's another place you can lose somebody. Without that intro, when they don't understand what you're doing and you don't get permission, then it's a lot harder to keep them answering. It's a lot harder. Okay. Okay.
Anything, so, I'm just telling you what happened to me because, I'd like to send you input. I mean, what would you have done?
I think in that case, if I'd done that with the story and everything else, I think I would have taken him out to a home that I know he would hate. And have him criticize, say, see, this is exactly the thing I'm talking about. I'm wasting your time looking at the home because you won't tell me what you want. Let's sit down here at the dinette and finish this thing. I'd carry it right out with me if I had to in a case like that. I wouldn't have done that. Yes, I would have because I'm your manager. That's what I would have done as a manager. I would not want you to do it. I don't want to start giving me excuses why you go out on the lot without an interview sheet. If you can't get the interview sheet, you TO to a senior salesperson or the manager and let them decide what they want to do with them. It's difficult to say exactly how to handle something like that because I don't know everything that transpired. I mean, you'd almost have to take me back for when they came up on the lot and everything they did, and, to get a feel for but I'm going to do the program. I'm going to take the bottom line is I'm going to take every humanly possible effort to get them to do it. If I can't do it, I TO them. I expect the TO person to do the same thing, and if they still won't cooperate, you let them walk. And I guarantee you'll talk to fewer salesmen till you make more, fewer people, but you'll end up making more sales. Do I lose some that way? Yeah, but the number of ones I make, because I hang in with the program, so far outnumber the couple I lose like that. Like you said, it's God knows when you're going to run into somebody like that again. I was teaching up in Winnipeg years ago, and I had a young girl sitting where Shandy is sitting. And we got into a similar discussion, and she's telling me this horror story about this guy that came in and did this and did that and everything else, and the blood was coming up in her face. This is years ago. In fact, I think I mentioned on the last tape. When she got all through, I thought she was going to have a heart attack on me. I said, my God, when did this happen? She says, 2 years ago. Right? And I said, when are you going to let this guy go? Forget it. He's gone. He ain't coming back. But God bless anybody that come on that was built similarly, I'll tell you, because I know that what she was doing, here he comes again. But you get over him and you move on. See, you're not Mother Earth. You're not responsible for a lot of these idiots. Really, I tell you a book you really ought to read about twice a year is I'm Okay, You're Okay. You ought to get straight on it that, you're not, you didn't raise these people. You're not responsible for them. Because they're, I might have tried on that guy, I can't believe this is your normal personality. Some salesperson must have really done something terrible to you. And again, you'd almost have to, that's the kind of thing I'd almost have to be there to tell you what I do. But I am going to, one way or another, stay in control. Anything else? Okay, if we'll turn here to page 46. Okay, continue with question 2, right in the middle of the page there. We will now discuss how to handle a prospect who wants land but has not yet found it. There are a number of pieces of information you must identify at this point in the interview. Now, I did a shortened version of that with Josh just to get the money, but I should have gone further than just the money on that. But as an example, because I wanted to show you how it links. Okay, but I also, how much land do they want? Why? Since the size of the land will affect the price, you want to know how much money is needed. If they want to finance it, then the monthly cost of the land must be calculated in the debt ratio figures. If they plan to pay for the land, you want to know the price since the equity can be used in land in lieu financing. If he's paying cash, or he's already paid cash for it, then the equity is there. What's the reason they want the size land that they want? Do they raise horses, want room for the kids to safely play, or just don't like being closed in with their neighbors? You know what? Why does he want 2 acres? You know, and you know, use this information to demo to paint word pictures of how their home, what your home will do, that they want it to do. The nicest thing about this picture window is going to be able to look out on your own property and watch those horses run around, the kids play safely, whatever. You know, I know how important that is to you. Isn't that so? Feature, benefit, and tie down. Okay, 2B. Where do they want the land and why? Again, the location, in this case, Josh, I think we said, okay, school district. You know, why do they want it there? Because it's close to work or a school district. They want their children to attend. Perhaps it's something as simple as being close to a shopping center or more seriously a hospital. Regardless of the reason, you should identify it and use it in the demo as you have the size of the land. Let me give you an example of that's interesting. There's a guy by the name of Richard Nixon who is vice president of a large company out of Massachusetts that builds retirement parks all along the East Coast. They have over 100 of them now. In fact, the guy that's president of this company was the guy that was instrumental in getting mobile home put in the dictionary as one word. Okay? Rather interesting guy. He's well up into his 80s today. And when they build a retirement park, what is the first thing they look for that they want to be located close to? Pardon? Hospital. He will not build a park where he's more than 5 minutes away from a hospital because they can't fill it. When you get retirement people, you don't think about that at your age. But when you've had 3 or 4 of your friends that have had a heart attack, you know, you're in your 60s or 70s or something like that, then that becomes important to you. And that's more important than the malls and the rest of the stuff. If I have a car in a hurry, can they get me to the hospital in time? You know, and you just never know. I mean, with different people, it's different things. There's just so many variables, you know, that you've got to ask. You know, that I don't know how to do the Indian qualifier. You know, look out of the window. Okay, she's going to buy this one. You know, I don't know how to do that. I got to sit down and talk to them. Okay, 2C, how much would they like to pay? Now, let's say that I tell him that that land was going to cost well, I said 190. Let's say I told him 250, and he said, look, I am not going over $200. I'm sure I can find a piece of land for 200. Even if we found you a really gorgeous piece of property with all of it, you wouldn't go over the $200, you know, on it? I mean, so if I have a piece of property like that, you're telling me you don't even want to see it, right? And that's how you test how serious he is. If he says, you're darn right, I ain't going over 200. Now you know that it's going to be 250. Now where do you get the other $50? Pardon? Yeah, less house, right. In other words, this guy here, if let's say he's got $850, okay, that he can use and he gives it to you. Okay, he says he'll pay $200 for the land, so that gives you $650 for the house. But you know you're going to come up $50 short for the land, so you go down to $600 on the house. So when you get to the back end, the $850 is going to fit. It'll still be $850. You've just done it a different way. See, because payment buyers buy payments anyway. When you get in a land loan, all he cares is how much is it a month. As long as it's $850, they rarely care how it's structured. If you put everything together for him the way he says he wants it. Again, is everybody with me on that? If you're brand new, you may want some clarification on that. But see, here's why you want a game plan with your manager. See, I don't know whether your managers are doing that, but I suggested that at the managers meeting. If you work for me, you never show a home unless you bring me the interview sheet and we game plan. I want a second opinion. I want to help you. See? And your manager should be able to figure those numbers out for you and that stuff. If you just give him the raw information, he can tell you where they'll fit. He'll tell you that you can't do that for 200, and then you can work accordingly. Find the land. So, Okay, do they have money set aside for the land? If not, how did they plan to pay for it? Also, notice what I did with Josh. Do you have money set aside for that, or what did you have in mind? not did you want us to finance the utilities. I ask them, do you have money set aside for the utilities, or what do you have in mind? Okay, and let them tell you. Okay, as an example, if they tell you they're going to, okay, they've got to sell the home first. That might be one. Okay. Okay, let me read over this whole thing. Okay, do they have the money set aside for the land? If not, how do they plan to pay for it? As stated before, you are looking for money they have set aside in cash for the land, or what amount they are willing to invest by the month. If they have the cash, where is it and how soon can they get it? These answers may affect how soon you can deliver or what method you would use to close them. If they must sell their home first, you should ask how much equity they will have at closing so you know how much cash they really have to work with. Now, I'm going to show you a little different way of doing that with an example, but let me give you a rule of thumb with years of working with house sales. If they tell you, it's not unusual for the customer to say to you, I've got the home, I'm going to put it up for $100,000, I owe $80,000 on it, and when I sell it for $100,000, I'll give you the $20,000 difference. Well, that's not going to happen. Why not? You haven't figured closing costs, you haven't figured a real estate agent. Rarely does a house sell for what it lists for. Somebody usually comes in with an offer for about 5% less. Let me give you a rule of thumb. Whatever they tell you they're going to list the house for, figure 12% less. Figure you're going to eat up 12% of that amount in closing costs, real estate costs, and everything else, and you're not going to be too far off, I promise you. So if they tell you that they've got a $100,000 house, okay, and they're going to sell it, okay, and they owe $75,000, and they'll give you the $25,000 difference, how much are they really going to give you? Or they owe $75,000, yeah, and they'll give you the $25,000 difference. How much are they really going to give you? $13,000, because you got to subtract the 12% or $12,000 of the 100 to take care of the rest. So when the dust settles, they're going to have $13,000 to work with, and you better start figuring that stuff up front if you're going to get into land home, because if you don't, you're going to come up way short on the down money and then lose the sale. Because the guy's ego won't let you sell him anything at that. Now he's mad at you for not explaining it right. Okay, so that's what I'm after there. They may be waiting for the CD, and then you handle it the way I showed you. If you're selling depending on where they're getting the land to, it might also affect what you're going to show them. I would not show them a special, one-time special to a guy who's got to sell his home and hasn't even listed it yet. May not be around, by the time he's ready to buy, or the program may have stopped. Right. 2E, do they have improved land for the price they give you? I'd suggest that when asking about the land, you ask the price of land and the improvements. It's two separate questions. And then and it shows what I did here with Josh. How much is land going for up there? I have no idea. Then you tell them. Does that sound about what you had in mind? And you work the guy. See, somewhere along the line, this is what this guy's going to have to do, is come up with these answers, or he's never going to buy anywhere, is he? I want to have influence on this type of thinking. I don't want this type of thinking done over their dining room table at home where I have no influence on it. No input. I want to help them. Okay? How soon do they want the land and why? What are they trying to identify? What you're trying to identify is how soon can you complete the deal. Do they want to wait 6 months? If so, why? They tell you they must save money. Then you look for ways to find the money. Go to the money finder list at the closing or at the back of the lender investment. Okay, there's an example there of what I did with Josh. I cannot overemphasize how important it is to identify as much information as you can with this question on land. Land is the easiest way to get yourself in serious financial trouble. It's, you've got this guy, you've got to find out, what does the land look like? Is it level? Are there trees on it? This kind of stuff on it. You get a $5,000 fee for clearing the land, or, it's on the side of a hill, or something or other. And now you got to that, you got to dig into the hill to put the foundation in and then place the home on top of it with a crane. I don't know. Neither do you if you don't ask. Right? Now, up north, my son sets almost everything with a crane up there. We don't use roll-ons up there. Everything's done with a crane. You place everything on full foundations because up north, I've got to dig down 4 to 4.5 foot to get below the frost line. So if my footings are going to go down 4.5 foot, I might as well go the other 3.5 foot and finish the basement. Put a basement underneath it and double the size of the home, which is the way the lenders feel about it too. I don't have any trouble financing basements up there. Right. Now, you go over to Louisiana, you dig down 3 foot, you hit water. You don't have basements over there. 3 inches and you hit water around Baton Rouge. So it depends on where you're in. Then you go into slabs. And rent out 2 of the bedrooms for burial crypts, right? It's out of New Orleans. Okay, now let's discuss the final problem. You have a site to place the home on. This is the prospect that has a piece of land they wish to put the new home on. There are 9 pieces of information you need for this prospect to assure that their land will indeed be suitable. Where is it located? If it's located out of your normal market area, your manager may want to increase the price to cover delivery and service cost. Number 2, what's the size of the land? 5 acres of paid land at $5,000 an acre means you have 5 times as much equity to use in the land in lieu deal than you have with 1 acre worth $5,000. So the bigger the land, the higher the cost on it, the better off you are. How much equity do they have? The more equity, everything else being equal, the easier it is to get financing approval. A prospect that, here, and see, you get a guy that owns 20 acres. I'm going to give you an example of that. Where the guy owns 20 acres that he bought, to put a home on. You've got a motivated customer there, Dean. This guy didn't buy 20 acres of property because he doesn't want to live there. He bought the property because that's where he wants to live. He wants to be up there. So our job is to help him get up there as fast as possible. You got a motivated customer there. Number 4, how much is it worth? What will it praise for today? If it was purchased a number of years ago and the area is not deteriorated, it may very well be worth more than was paid for it. In certain cases, some lenders will not finance a land deal if the land is worth substantially more than the home. Their attitude is, we're not in the land business. In fact, I think that's the case with Conseco, isn't it? 5 acres and they won't go. So if you got 20 acres of that guy, you don't put him into Conseco because they don't want the deal to start out with. But their attitude is they're in the mobile home business, they're not in the land business. Yeah. Okay, so they're not going to finance any of that. If he's got it paid for, then it's equity, but not if you want to throw it in a deal. Yeah. How do your delivery people gain access to the site, and what's the topography of the property and the rest of it? You can buy for about $150, you can buy the topography of your whole state. And you can bring it up on a computer. DeLorem has it available to you on a disc. I just got the disc for my kid. You can. The guy gives you his address. You pump it in, and it'll show you the topography of the property. Which is real handy on figuring delivery. On how to deliver. Now, one of the things I would suggest that you do with a customer is where the guy owns his own property. I would suggest you say to him, David, that 2 acres that you own, is that or the 20 acres you own as an example, because that's what I'm going to use as one tomorrow. The 20 acres, how's that laid out? Is it a rectangle or is it square? Well, it's sort of a rectangle. Here's a piece of paper. Draw me a picture of it. I'm interested, and I am. Okay? Now, David may draw me a picture like this, okay? And I'll say, okay, good. How do we get entrance to the property? Well, there's a road over here, and then there's another road here. Okay, and then entrance onto the property is level? Oh, yeah, it was a farm property. I have to cut down the weeds in that, but it was farm. It's level. It's right level with the ground. Okay, where are we going to put the home then? Well, I want to put the home over in